Do you feel like HBCULA is taking it too far? I want to know your thoughts on it. But before you comment on this post, I want you to research Black Bruin history. Research Black Bruin history specifically, and then come back and let me know what you think about the term HBCULA. It's just so much I want to say right now, so I decided to record a video. As you can see by the title of this video, hashtag HBCULA is a little thing right now. It's been trending on Twitter. So he's a Black Bruin, actually an acquaintance of mine who goes by the name H, and he posted hashtag HBCULA, a thread, and I guess it low-key trended, kind of went viral for a little bit, and it sparked all these conversations. And some of these conversations to me are quite interesting, but a completely distraction from the real goal, and I feel like it actually shows people's true colors and how they really feel about things. So to begin with, HBCULA is clearly a joke. A, because UCLA is a predominantly white institution and also known as a PWI. So actually our student body is predominantly Asian, but it's still considered a PWI because our faculty and administration are predominantly white. So look at it as either one you want. The Black student body percentage, I believe, is a little over 4% now. With us having that little of a Black student body on our campus, I'm not going to lie, like, Black Bruins are very connected and empowered, or at least I can't speak on every Black Bruin at UCLA. I can speak on my own experience, so the perspective I'm going to be giving is from my own experience. So I'm making this video to kind of explain how HBCULA is a joke, but yes, it actually has some truth in it, and B, to address the people who are saying a lot of negative things about that hashtag being used, or the fact that we're celebrating our Blackness at a PWI to begin with. So my interpretation of HBCULA is from my own experience as a Black Bruin, that we be lit, we be together. There's a lot of historical Black history at UCLA, and if you're a Black Bruin, you're more than likely going to be empowered by other Black Bruins in the histories and the legacy that Black Bruins have at UCLA. So what does that mean? Let me just give you a little history, and y'all can definitely check out the Black Bruins tab under my on my YouTube channel to really see and watch what I'm talking about. But there's so much rich Black history at UCLA, and I know that sounds crazy to say because it's a PWI, but it's the truth. And what I mean by that is our Black alumni literally fought and created not one, not two, not three, but so many spaces and events that are still present today on our campus. So what does that really mean? That there is historical Black legacy at UCLA. It's the truth. Basically, in 1966, that's when the Afrikan Student Union was founded, and our Black students, ain't nobody could stop them, nobody could touch them. Black Bruins were it. Black Bruins were the best thing to happen to UCLA, in my opinion. And if you're Black at UCLA, you know that. We learn about our history. If you want to know more about our history, look up the Afrikan Student Union, look up the Afrikan Education Project, look up the High Potential Program, look up the involvement of Black Panthers and the two Black Panthers that were killed on our campus, John Huggins and Bunchy Carter, and why they were there in the first place, and what they were doing with Black students, what they were trying to do with UCLA, what they were trying to do with our campus. So when I talk about that history, I get empowered, I get excited, because I share that history as a Black Bruin, as a Black student at UCLA. And so I'm empowered by that. And so I acknowledge that history. And so a lot of students do that as well. So really the roots, I believe the root of that hashtag, although it was a joke, comes from that rich history and the fact that we really feel empowered from Black history at UCLA, from the Black experience, from what it means to be Black at UCLA. Like the Black Bruin experience to me, I don't want to say it's different than other Black experiences at PWIs, because I haven't been to other PWIs or talked to enough students, you know, to have enough knowledge on that. But I also don't feel like people should be as offended and feel like we're disrespecting the title of the HBCU, because if you do your history, a lot of our Black alumni were connected with your Black alumni. Oh, this is perfect, because my brother is calling me. So my brother just recently graduated from Howard. Malcolm, how are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in the middle of filming a video and you're gonna love this. Are you on Twitter these days? Somebody tweeted hashtag HBCULA, right? And it was the picture of all of our Black students. Oh, I wish y'all could see his face. It was from Afrograd, right? And so that is like, you know how, you already know like how I feel about my Black experience at UCLA and all that. By no means is it in comparison to an HBCU, but we do have our own Black community and a lot of historical Black legacy at UCLA. Don't be rolling your eyes now. Okay, I want to know your opinion. What do you think about the hashtag? Because a lot of people were going off. Yeah, a lot of people were offended.
I think that people should go to whatever school suits them best. If there's a program that's specialized for you or whatever you think is going to help you in your career, I think that that's great. The problem that I have is the shots that are taken at HBCUs that are like, there's like this underlying assumption that they're inferior in some type of way, and that's just not the facts.
That's
like,
not true at all. That's not true.
Yeah, like HBCUs produce the most Black PhDs. They produce the most Black graduates. Like people with grad degrees.
Okay.
They produce like people that get better jobs that go to HBCUs because of the network and because college.
And that's in comparison to Black students who go to PWIs.
Yeah, we do better. Like the schools that get the best financial aid are like the private Ivies, like a Columbia or a Harvard or something like that. But not everyone's going to be able to get into those schools because they use racist systems in order to validate you as a student.
So you're saying this is why you feel people are offended, or is this how? What's your personal opinion on the hashtag?
I think that is problematic because people, I feel like these same people, and even not like coming down on you, but I feel like a lot of people have these negative sentiments. They're like, oh, it's gonna be just a bunch of like African Americans. It's not gonna be diverse. It's not gonna be like the real world. So I do have a problem with the
hashtag.
The hashtag.
But what is your problem? What is the problem exactly?
The problem exactly is that I think it diminishes the value and the importance of the HBCU, and you're just not going to get that. Like, I think that you still should celebrate your Black experience, but like, if you wanted to go to an HBCU, you should have. If it was successful to you for some reason, that's legitimate. But if you didn't go because you went to a better school, quote unquote, then you just didn't get that experience, and that's just what it is.
Okay, let me. This is my perspective on it. So I do understand why people are sensitive about it and why people feel offended, but then I feel like that's the root of the problem, that people feel offended and are so sensitive about it in the first place, because there is an unspoken division between students, not even unspoken because people are clearly speaking on it. People see it as a division between students who go to HBCUs and who go to PWIs. So I'm not going to speak on all PWIs in general, because I can speak on my experience as a Black Bruin, but the reason I saw it as a joke and I actually see it as something that's empowering is because we do have our own historical Black legacy, specifically at UCLA. And my problem is with people being so sensitive in the comments and people going off and being offended is all the excuses or all the explanations have nothing to do with the actual Black experience at UCLA. And by no means can we compare it to an HBCU? Because no, the institution is not an HBCU, but just the same exact reasons that people are so proud to be so proud to go to an HBCU, I'm so proud to be a Black Bruin, because I feel like our Black alumni created those same foundations on our campus. They fought to create places where we feel safe and where we feel protected and where we feel empowered on our campus. Does that make sense? So I feel like it's more important to have the conversation of why we feel so empowered to be able to say something like that, rather than to be like, oh, you're taking away from our own experience, we're diminishing it, this and that. Because no, it's not a historical Black college, but there's definitely some historical Black organizations. There's definitely some historical Black spaces on UCLA's campus. So I
get that, but it's still not an even with everything.
It's not an HBCU.
It's not an HBCU.
It's not.
You're never going to be. You never have to prove the legitimacy of your school. Like the people in the comments.
But no, we have to. But that's the thing. Pause. Can I pause you for a second? We don't have to prove the legitimacy of our school, but I feel like to people who go to an HBCU, we have to prove the legitimacy of our Black experience. And I'm like, who am I to say that? Who am I to say that? Because everybody has a different Black experience no matter what campus they go to. You know what I mean?
That's true. I mean, but...
Because the whole problem is the word historical Black college and university, right? That's the whole problem. But the real problem should be, we was never supposed to be educated in the first place. The fact that we feel so empowered that on a PWI we can sit here and say something like that and then have things to back it up is different. It's different. And I feel like that's something we should celebrate.
I think you should celebrate it, but I mean, why do you have to evoke? I just feel like there's already so much bad blood, because like you guys are arguing with us, but like I feel like it's not. I feel like it's like light-skinned people arguing with dark-skinned people. Like,
yeah, that's how I see it too.
No, but I feel like you're in a more privileged position, and it's like, why do you have to just say that you...
Oh, so you feel like people who go to PWIs are in a more privileged position?
For sure.
What is our privilege?
That you go to a PWI, that you already go to something that white people accept.
Acknowledge.
So it's like...
Okay.
You guys should be empowered. I'm not trying to come against that. And if people are just like, oh, you're not Black enough because you went to a PWI, that's problematic, and I disagree with that. But like, you guys, at the end of the day, were like 1% of your student body. You were not surrounded by Black people every day. Mm-hmm. You do not have the ranks of people who came from our universities. You have people. Not saying there's no one there, but like, it's a different dynamic. Mm-hmm. And like, so I just feel like you guys should talk about like how empowering it was, and that you still will have community, you still have love, even if you go to a place like UCLA, because, and specifically UCLA, because it's not like that at other.
It's not.
I mean, there's Black student unions everywhere, but like, I feel like from what you've told me and from what I've heard from other people, that it is a special space at UCLA.
It is. Being a Black Bruin is special. Like, I'm working on a documentary that's really going to show you why being a Black Bruin is special. But being a Black Bruin is very special. We can agree to disagree, and that's exactly what I told somebody earlier today. But I feel like the issue that so much emphasis is being put on the fact that we said historical Black college or university in UCLA.
You're just simply not.
I understand that. No, but I understand. My problem is, I feel like it's something that's celebrating Blackness. Because there's people that know what UCLA is and has no idea what an HBCU is. So when they're clicking on this hashtag, they're understanding what an HBCU is. So I feel like there's so much power and knowledge and education that we should be celebrating Blackness.
But like, you guys don't go to the other schools.
But what I understand that.
I'm not the smaller HBCU. And I don't think that you guys should really occupy that space, because it's not your space. But what do you mean, who, at the end of the day, HBCU.
Okay, at the end of the day, what's the point of an HBCU? What's the point?
Opportunities to people who didn't have them at first.
Okay, to provide opportunities to people who didn't have them at first. So if I can say I felt that same point, that same experience at UCLA, who am I not to, like, why should I not be able to recognize that and acknowledge that and call that what I want to call it?
Because that's not what's going on.
How is it not what's going on? That's what I'm talking about. That's what gets down to own specific individual experiences.
No, it's not. We're going into stats right now. People still have a really hard time. I'm glad that you got in. I'm glad for all your friends. I'm proud of you guys. You guys worked hard. But people, the space that you're in is not accessible to a lot of Black people.
I understand that. And that's the point. That's the thing. Us saying HBCULA, I don't feel like that's trying to say we have the same exact experience. I don't even think any HBCU students that go, like, Howard is completely different than FAMU. Like, I'm sure people can argue all different things about their school, but I feel like
I'm saying it's a privilege conversation.
No, I don't. But this is why I disagree. This is why I disagree with it being a conversation of privilege. Because, like, I understand that you see it as privilege that some people go to a PWI, but some people, their reason for going to the PWI is because the HBCU didn't give them any money. The reason that I see it as something that's problematic, that people are going off and saying things that are, like, hurtful to one another is we're dividing ourselves. We should be empowering each other. The fact that we've all been able to reach some type of form of higher education, no matter where you go.
I am happy for you, but I really feel like okay, go ahead.
But I also feel like it's important to acknowledge the history of why we would even feel it's okay to make that joke.
I mean, I feel like I keep using the parallel of, like, repping a set that's not yours because I feel like it applies.
But it's not that I'm repping a set that's not mine. I have a specific unique, but listen, I have a specific unique experience as a Black Bruin at a PWI to the point where I feel comfortable enough to say that I have my own historical Black college at UCLA. We have our own department, our own spaces that were made for us, created by us and specifically for us at UCLA, to the point where we can use that terminology. And that's where I feel like people are putting too much emphasis on the hashtag itself. The whole point of the HBCU is to celebrate Blackness. The whole point of that hashtag was to celebrate Blackness. And I feel like I do feel like these conversations are important, but the things that people bring up and the things they go about when this conversation happens, I feel like shows people's true colors. Because I feel like people see Black students at a PWI as, like, oh, they're in Uncle Tom's Cabin, white supremacists, this. Y'all don't know what, like, have y'all ever sat and talked to us about our own personal experience?
I have.
Yeah, you have. And we have a video on it. Check it out. Check it out. UCLA versus Howard, PWI versus HBCU.
Is this going to get the same legitimacy that you guys get? And so it's weird for you guys to try to claim a struggle that you don't have. Like, UCLA will never struggle in the way that HBCU does.
But no, that's not true.
Organization. That is
but pause. You're saying UCLA as an institution. The Black experience at UCLA. But my skin says Black. My skin says Black, and pause. That should be good enough. To me, that should be good enough, because you should know by the way that I look that I'm gonna have some type of struggle. That's how I see it. I just got off the phone with my brother. So I hear him out. We agreed to disagree. He feels like people shouldn't use the hashtag HBCULA. He feels like it's trying to represent that's not yours. But the way I see it as is, at the end of the day, anytime HBCU is being mentioned, we should see it as a celebration of Blackness. I don't feel like it's us as Black Bruins trying to equate our experiences to, you know, whatever HBCU it is. The way I interpret it is as the fact that we feel comfortable enough that we have a history, that we have created our own spaces, our own organizations on campus. That it's just, at the end of the day, it's just terminology to me. Like, it's people having a problem with the specific term HBCU. And this is what got me. I asked my brother, I said, so if all the Black Bruins at UCLA and the African American Studies Department at UCLA, all of our Black organizations were to take ourselves and move, okay, so if we were to all take ourselves and completely extract from UCLA and change the name, have our own campus, right? Would we be considered HBCU? And he said yes. And so I feel like that's the key issue. The key issue is that we're at an institution that is predominantly white, so that our black experience is seen as something that is questionable or something that can't be compared. And I hear you. Like, I feel like I understand it a lot more, the interpretation, but I feel like my problem with the whole conversation is I feel like people are taking it backwards instead of moving forward with it. I feel like we should have a conversation of why it's so important to create black spaces, no matter where you are, no matter if it's a whole institution, no matter if it's just a department, no matter if it's just a club, no matter if it's just an organization. I feel like we should talk about the importance of why these spaces are created in the first place. I feel like that's what's important. I feel like that's the conversation that should be being had. And the fact that HBCU is the specific term of institutions that have achieved a specific success to be called an academic institution is important. But I also feel like we should acknowledge people who are now in a whole institution. They may be in another institution, but they have their own space. I feel like it's still important. But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole topic of segregation right now, because then I'm going to be talking forever. But I hear you. I want to continue this conversation. Y'all can go in my comments. But what I ask is that we can have conversations with respect. Don't try to diminish somebody's experience, or don't try to question somebody's blackness, or don't try to break them down because of what they say or what they do. If somebody disrespects you, that's a different story. But I think there's a big difference between disrespect and somebody being offended because they're sensitive about something they feel that they own or they feel is their own personal experience. So